Yes, yes, yes. How are we doing? Happy Friday. Hope you're really, really good. That Friday feeling. This is going to be show 384. Okay, 384. And we're going to talk about how we can stay connected to our plans. Now, when we're trying to create plans and when we're trying to build goals or missions or outcomes, quite often we can completely disconnect from those plans, that missions, those goals. We find ourselves in limbo and we end up finding ourselves in a place that actually this is not where I wanted to be because we've disconnected. So in this show, coaching session, we're going to look at how we stay connected to the bigger picture. Make sense? Cool, let's get into it. Welcome to the Rise to Thrive show. I'm your host, James Boardman, and if you are coming through, then please let me know either by hitting the love heart button, and in the comments what I want you to talk about is whether, number one, you disconnect from your plans and what you do to bring yourself back in terms of staying connected. All right, so kind of just a bit of an open insight, and then please share this with someone that you might know. All right, so next week we are running an Elite 5-day challenge, so it's like a mini course for those that want to raise their standards, for those that want to build a growth mindset so they start leading themselves better, right? So some of the stuff that we're going to talk about in here, we're going to be going into much more detail next week. We're going to talk about how to build energy management, routine, structures, habits, how we rewire the mindset as well, okay? So if you think about a relationship, think about a marriage, or think about people who have just met. They're thinking about relationships, not just in a love sense, but maybe parents, relationships with friends, anyone that you might have a relationship. One of the key things to making that relationship work is connection, okay? It's staying connected throughout, because obviously if you don't stay connected, you then start growing apart, right? And it's the same with ourselves and our own missions and the things that we want to achieve. If we don't stay connected to what we're trying to achieve, to the mission, to the outcome, to the new life that we want to create for ourselves, what we end up doing is becoming disconnected, and we end up falling back into old habits, old ways of thinking, the old chimp mentality. And all of the stuff that you have done previously just slips by the wayside, and it's gone. And suddenly we're back to where we were, square one, right? We go straight back to that place. So what I want to talk about is how do we stay connected to, so that we achieve the mission, so we achieve the breakthroughs that we want, so we rewire the mindset. So if you look here, what ends up happening, there are lots of touch points. When we want to stay connected, it's almost about staying connected. It's almost about how many touch points can you have. And what I've done here is kind of like talked about, this is our guy here. And at the very start of every journey, like everyone, we have these touch points and we stay in the mix. And we're like, oh my God, I can't believe these changes that we're going through. I can't believe how much better I feel, right? I can't believe, man, I'm starting to train a little bit more. I'm starting to be more connected to my partner. I'm starting to feel a lot better. And then what ends up happening is that old habits die hard, right? So they come in and we miss a day's training, or we miss a day's accountability, or we miss a day's whatever it is. We just become inconsistent and we miss a couple of touch points, and then we come back and we touch point again, and we miss and we touch point again, and then it kind of splits here, right? And then because we haven't had so many touch points, because there's been big gaps, we slightly become disconnected. So we kind of just disappear off that path that we're on. And we kind of just think that we're going to stay on it. We think we're going to come back to it. And we keep convincing ourselves, right, with the chimp mind in the side of our head. And we're going, that's fine, I'll come back to it. I'm going to get back onto it. And we're always saying that. And things always end up overloading us or overwhelming us. And we end up going back off track. And then we're splitting into this position. Where do we go from here? Okay, and we end up back almost to where we were. So if you look at this dude here, okay, look how consistent all of these touch points are. Just over any period of time, just consistently touching base, okay, which we're going to go through those points in a minute. But when we're here, we do these three things. Number one, we have breakthroughs. Because we're constantly working at it over and over and over again, we have these micro 1% breakthroughs that are always pushing us forwards, always seeing things in a bigger picture, okay? The next one here is we start rewiring the circuit that's in here. So we start to rewire the way that it thinks. We rewire the way that it acts, rewire the decisions, the outcomes, because there's lots of touch bases, boom, boom, boom. We can't do that here because there's not that connection. And then the last one here is through these you build beliefs, okay, and values, principles of how you, of your non-negotiables in your life. So because you are touching base, you're able to do this. It's like if you imagine training in your gym, right? If you just trained in a gym 3 times a month versus 30 times a month, the outcome and the results are going to be different. Okay, you're going to be so invested in that gym, in that mission, if you're there every 30 days of the month. I'm not suggesting that you do that. But if you're there 30 days in a month, man, you're going to be so connected to it. You're going to be in there. It's going to be part of your life. It's going to be non-negotiable. Whereas if you just do it 3 times a month, you're not really going to be connected to that mission. Does that make sense? So there are these 6 key points, 7 key points that I think we need to do to make sure that we attain these touch points. Okay, let me just sort this out, sorry. So the first one is daily awareness. There has to be, every single day, there has to be an element of daily awareness about what you're doing. So some of the stuff that we have in our coaching group is the micro morning accountability, the personal accountability post, the weekly planning, the mid-monthly check-in on your plans, doing our focus sessions. So there's always that connection to what you're doing, how you're performing, what the outcomes are. There's always something. There has to be reflection. So whether this is daily, weekly, bi-daily, it's totally down to you, but there has to be reflection on how things are going. Like personally for me, on a Friday, I reflect over the 5 days. And I kind of think about where have I put my time, where have I put my energy, going through my journal, because it's connecting all of the dots. It's looking at the breakthroughs, it's looking for the areas that I learned, etc., etc. Understanding the reason why you're showing up. Why are we on this mission, this path? What are we trying to achieve here? What's the point? So, you know, I think that's really important. The why is the fire, because you can't rely on motivation. Motivation is not deep enough, but the why is. It's like, why do you want to be that better person? And when we do that, it keeps us connected. And you do that as part of your daily awareness and your daily and your weekly or daily reflection. Self-communication with the chimp. So the chimp is the thing that's always trying to get you to take a step away, to come away from that process. Okay, it's the one thing that really is trying to stop you wanting to do the things that you want to do because it makes it feel uncomfortable. So you've got to be able to have this communication with your chimp, because the chimp's going, you don't need to get up, it's all right, you're going to be fine, or you don't need to go to the gym, or whatever it might be. It's always going to challenge you. And what we always have to do is make sure we have that communication with the chimp. So the more communication we have of it, the more understanding we have of it, the better the relationship we have with it, and the more that we can overcome it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, accountability. So self-accountability, accountability to a mentor, accountability to a group. Accountability is doing what you said you were going to do. Okay, people up here, the reason that they go off and they disappear back into that way of living is because they have no accountability. And then the chimp overwhelms them and they're like, nah, we're just gonna stay off it. We're not gonna be in it. We're not gonna be focused on it. Number 2 is sharing the experience. So for a lot of lads, what I see is when they put up their stuff and their personal accountability, they are sharing what they're going through and what they're doing and how it's improving them, right? It works with men and women. Okay, we're constantly having these breakthroughs, we're sharing them, we feel better and lighter when we get them off our chest. And we stay connected because we're verbally brain dumping everything that's going on. And then acceptance of hardship. Okay, acceptance that this here is going to be tough. and breakthroughs, rewiring, building beliefs and systems, these things are going to be difficult. And acceptance of that is key. When it gets difficult here, this is what happens. We miss all of these touch points, all of the things that keep us connected and keep us focused on the bigger picture. All right, guys, so the outcome really is that we want to have these X's, these milestones, these checkpoints. So if you're on a journey, you want all of these different checkpoints to make sure you're on the right direction. The minute that they've gone, it brings uncertainty, anxiety, overwhelm, overthinking, and we just disappear in the middle of the night. We're gone, and we end up going all the way back to where we started. And it happens all over and over and over again. Okay, so if you're looking for that growth mentality, if you're looking for yourself to connect to the bigger picture and your missions, we need to be looking at least 3 or 4 of these, getting on top of them, and then working on the ones that we haven't got. All right, guys, make sense? So the one thing that I want you to do is I want you to make sure that you are putting in the comments the one thing that you've taken away from this. What's the number one thing that stood out for you guys? All right, have a great weekend, and I will catch you all soon.